All right, well, hello everyone and happy Thursday. It's digital host A.J. Wuest here, welcoming you back to Before the Four. Of course, the live stream where I go through some of 48's top news stories and then some before our 4 o'clock newscast. Wherever you're watching Before the Four this afternoon, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or the 48 Now live stream, as always, I gotta shout you out. Thank you so much for watching and spending just a bit of your Thursday afternoon here. So I started the stream a few minutes early today. We have a lot to dive into today. So without further ado, we are going to start things off. And let's begin with a bit of state news. Earlier today, Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall announced his bid for U.S. Senate. Now, Marshall is vying for the Senate seat that would be vacated by Senator Tommy Tuberville, who recently announced he's running for governor. Marshall announced his intentions to run through a video called Alabama Strong, highlighting his accomplishments in relationship with the Trump administration. He's currently in his second term as Attorney General. Now, during his tenure, Marshall's administration has been heavily involved in state policy, promoting legislation to bolster punishment for violent crime. He's also strongly aligned with the national GOP policy, actively participating in lawsuits that challenge Democratic initiatives. Alabama's 2 U.S. Senate seats were held for decades by Republican Senators Richard Shelby and Jeff Sessions. This opening is expected to gather a crowded field. So far, Jared Hudson announced his candidacy to run as a Republican, and Dakari Lariat will be vying for a position on the Democratic ticket. The primary election for the U.S. Senate race is scheduled for May 26, 2026. But now let's take a look at the weather. Rain, go away. That seems to be the attitude for many here in the Tennessee Valley, as it's been one of the wettest Mays on record in North Alabama. Let's turn over to First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis to see what we're looking at for the next few days. Brad?
Well, as we go through the evening hours, things are going to be quiet. I think we'll see some fog develop. We've got some spotty showers out there right now, but nothing too concerning. A live view from East Limestone here around 3:15 in the afternoon. Temperatures around 77. It's a muggy day, don't get me wrong. The humidity is going away, though, over the weekend. It's going to be real nice. You can keep tabs on our 48 First Alert weather app. You can get the latest radar imagery. A few isolated areas of lightning today, but the bigger storms will come as this cold front that's out to the west. This front pretty much moving into Wichita right now. That's headed our direction. And as it moves in, we'll see a few strong storms tomorrow morning, very early in the morning. We're talking 4, 5, 6 a.m. at the earliest. But this evening should be comfortable out there. Just have to dodge a couple of these isolated showers and thunderstorms. Here's where we start to get more active very early tomorrow morning. The front moves in. Not a lot of instability, at least not as much as we've had lately. So there's some good news. A few strong storms possible, but overall severe threats low, but could have an impact on your morning commute. No doubt about it, with some heavier rainfall out there, and then the winds start to pick up out of the northwest. I think one thing that will likely happen is as we get past about 11 in the morning, we're going to see some stronger thunderstorms down here south of Talladega and as they track on to the east and southeast. So that will be the main concern for the strongest of storms south of us tomorrow afternoon. Looks great. Rain chances low as we get past tomorrow, and that includes Sunday. We're still kind of wrestling with that forecast. Tuesday, maybe a rogue shower or thunder shower. Here's your 10-day forecast. 74 tomorrow, breezy, a beautiful evening tomorrow, and Saturday evening looks just as nice. Great time to spend on the patio. Great pool and lake weather coming, and the first week of June, hot and humid with high temperatures approaching 90 degrees.
That's right, and you all know the drill. For First Alert Weather Extra tonight at 9:30. First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis. He'll be back here in the CTV Center, and he'll have all the latest that he's seeing on the radar, especially monitoring those morning storms for tomorrow. So stick around for Weather Extra. Again, that's tonight at 9:30. Wherever you're watching Before the Four this afternoon, you're just not going to want to miss it. But now moving out to Athens, where one community has recently received a state grant to fix sewage issues that's plagued that community for a while now. Residents say it's been a long time coming. 48's Sarah Grace Kennedy spoke with several and has this story.
There's nothing that keeps us from being excited to see after this long period of time. But at the same time, it's disappointing.
Vice President of Limestone County NAACP, Diane Steele, tells me that she has been voicing her concerns about the community to city leaders for years. Steele tells me that she feels the city should have allocated funds to fix the drainage and sewage issues on Strain roads a long time ago. Kirk Parker, who lives off Strain Road, tells me that although he is glad that the project is starting, it still doesn't change their living situation.
We're still suffering, and even though we've heard a little news about the situation, we got still so far to go, because as of this very moment, I'm not even in my own home. My home is being gutted out right now because of the mildew and the mold, and me and my wife can't live in it anymore.
The city was awarded $4.5 million from the Alabama Department of Environmental Management to address the sewage and drainage problems on East and West Strain Road. The project is expected to cost around $11 million, so the city will have to foot the rest of the bill. Mayor Ronnie Marks says they are working to bring down costs, but in the meantime, they plan to tackle the drainage issue first. Parker says for 60 years he has seen a lot of communities growing around him, but he has never seen any changes to his community.
And they could have done something about it a long time ago. If they can build all these communities all around us, why couldn't they have just come through and did something for our community also? Include us in the growth. Include us in everything that is happening around us, rather than just walking over us, stepping on us, spitting on us, as we don't even exist as human beings.
Mayor Mark says that he is looking forward to seeing necessary changes in the community.
I am so excited about trying to deal with an area that has been basically forgotten. We've struggled to deal with it for 50 plus years.
And now moving over to Decatur, where recently we learned that Kevin Pinich, the man accused of killing 17-year-old Chloe Hastings in a car crash on May 18th, had 18 different drinks from 3 different restaurants leading up to the crash. 48's Nick Ballinger spoke with several bars who say they take limiting the number of drinks for intoxicated customers extremely serious. Nick Ballinger reports.
Just 11 days ago, 17-year-old Chloe Hastings lost her life after police say Kevin Pinich drove drunk and killed her in a wreck on Beltline Road in Decatur. Huntsville attorney Hunter Garnett sees a long legal road ahead, not just for Pinich.
The family of the young lady who was killed has a very strong civil case, not only against a drunk driver, but also against the establishments that overserved that man.
During a bond hearing Tuesday, it was revealed Pinich visited 3 different bars that night, ordering 4 shots and 2 beers from each, 18 drinks. It's stated clearly by Alabama ABC board that bartenders can't serve anyone who looks intoxicated.
The bartender, the owner of the bar, the restaurant can all be held liable.
Bartenders in the Valley say monitoring customers is one of the most important things they do.
Something that we do not take lightly, and it's not something we do half-heartedly. It's protection for them, but it's also protection for everyone else. We all have loved ones on the road.
Patrick Briscoe owns SIP in Huntsville and has been shaking and stirring for nearly 30 years.
There's the difference between a nightclub versus a sports bar versus a restaurant. The responsibility is always the same. Take care of the guests, but not over take care of the guests. We're looking out for their well-being as well.
But how can a bartender control what someone's had before starting a tap? Well, they can't. But Briscoe says the law is still the law.
We can only control what has happened in our bar. We're not going to contribute to the overserving, even if they've already been overserved. We pay attention to the guests from front to back.
It's the tricks of the trade that not only help keep customers safe, but keeps the lights on and the kegs flowing.
And staying in Decatur, with the story in case you missed it, our own Callie Neese recently sat down with interim police chief Natus Carlisle to talk about his time serving in the role before Tory Mack takes the helm. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Interim Chief of Police Natus Carlisle is wrapping up his term as Chief of Police here in Decatur. He says it's been a challenge, but he feels like he helped people.
This was the second time Carlisle has stepped in as interim chief of police. He says this time around was a challenge.
But I have witnessed firsthand the last 3 months the pain, the anger, and the mistrust from some members of the community. And that's what we've been working real hard trying to improve things like that.
Among those challenges for Carlisle has been working to improve relations with the community following the police shooting death of Steve Perkins. Those tensions boiled over again during Carlisle's 3 months as interim chief after John Scott Jr.'s death in police custody back in April. That led to a chaotic ending for a city council meeting where 6 people were arrested. Carlisle told me he's excited to pass the torch to Tory Mack, but has some advice for him.
Good luck. It won't be easy. But if the community comes together and gives him a chance, gives the police department a chance, and that means you just can't walk in here and fire everybody that certain people want to be fired. It doesn't happen that way. And just give them time and support.
Carlisle adds that Max seems like a really good person, and that's exactly what he wants in a replacement.
When you leave something like this, that's what you want. You want somebody hopefully better than me.
Decatur's new police chief, Tory Mack, will be sworn in on Monday. Reporting in Decatur, Callie Neese, 48 News, on your side.
And now coming up after the break, we'll talk about some fun and unique events coming up in the Huntsville area, one going on tonight and another this Saturday. It's all ahead. I'll be right back in 1 minute. All right, the minute is over, the break is over. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Before the Four. Now, if you're a car guy or gal, Toyota Field this Saturday might just be the place for you. Spokes and Vogues and Rocket City Octane are holding their inaugural Rocket City Spring Tune-Up right outside of Toyota Field this Saturday beginning at 9 a.m. The car show will feature a diverse range of cool and unique vehicles for the entire family to enjoy. I recently spoke with Spokes and Vogues owner Lee Adams, who discussed this Saturday's showcase, previewed what's to come at this year's annual June Fest, and speak about his auto customization shop and everything it does in the Huntsville community. Adams has worked on several projects that's gained him much notoriety both in North Alabama and throughout the nation, including his work on cars for acclaimed West Coast rappers Snoop Dogg and Too Short. Take a listen to what he had to say about this weekend.
Being that we're going to do it on a game day.
That's
so we're
right.
going to kind of just turn it into a whole big game day environment, car show / event. So with all the traffic and people coming for the game that day, they'll be able to come out and check out some cool cars.
Yeah, I understand this is your first year putting on this car show.
Yes.
What all can we expect there?
We're going to have local vendors and vendors from abroad. We're going to have some cool cars there that's going to be coming out of town. And it's just going to be pretty much a great Huntsville-based event to where we can showcase a bunch of the local rides and tuners and old schools and vintage cars in the area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of car shows that go on here in the Tennessee Valley. Can you talk about what makes this one especially special or different from maybe some of the other ones?
I think just the allure of doing it at the Trash Panda Stadium parking lot. Just it's new, it's fresh. And what a better way to add to it by having some cool cars parked in the parking lot from just people being able to come to see that's coming into the game. So I just think it's just going to be a nice addition to everything they already got going.
Yeah. And would you like to mention some of the vendors and entertainment that will be there as well?
Yeah, we're going to have Auto Works. Rocket City Octane is going to bring a lot of the vendors that they have, usually from their car show at the VBC. So we're going to have a lot of local vendors there. I can't name off them off the top, but you know what comes to mind to me right now is Auto Works. So, but we're going to have more local vendors there.
Well, sounds like a cool event. Awesome interview with Lee Adams at Spokes and Vogues. You can find that full 48 Now interview right now on our website and YouTube channel. Just go to the 48 Now section. And another thing you can do tonight in Huntsville is try your hand at the art of blacksmithing. Starting at 5:30 tonight, the Shop Huntsville is holding a basic blacksmithing course for anyone interested in trying to forge some awesome creations. A couple days ago, I spoke with class instructor Dewey Mason, as well as board president of the shop, Phil Kern, about tonight's blacksmithing class. Take a listen.
It is a learning process, but for people who are interested, it's probably more open today than it's ever been. And the shop is an excellent resource here in town, and so I was, as soon as Phil approached me and said, hey, would you want to do this? I was absolutely. Right. I didn't have to think about it.
And Dewey, what do you enjoy so much about blacksmithing, whether it's the relaxation that you get doing it, or once you have the finished product, kind of showing it off? What's your favorite part?
Really, it's the ability to look at a piece of steel that is nigh unto indestructible, and to know that that didn't look like that when I started. I took just a chunk of metal and I turned it into whatever useful or beautiful item that it now is. To be able to take a piece of sheet metal, for instance, put it in the fire, get it hot, work on it for a few hours, and then put it on another person's head as a helm.
Right.
When it was just a sheet of metal. To take a piece of iron rod and put a few hours in a few 100,000 BTUs and 10,000 blows of a hammer, and have a gate that has, a flying duck and some cattails with some swirled clouds in a metal gate that goes on my aunt's porch. Things like that.
Absolutely. And for someone like me who's never done blacksmithing before, how would you describe the process?
You take a nigh unto indestructible material, you cram it in a fire, you get it really hot, and you beat the snot out of it till it looks like you want it to.
That is awesome.
That's really the basis of the whole thing. There's obviously a lot more nuance to it, but at the end of the day, I tell people I don't do a lot with computers, because there's nothing on a computer that I can either A, put in the fire, or B, hit with a hammer and have it work better.
Right. And let me tell you, some days I wish I could, but awesome interview there with Dewey Mason and Phil Kern. That event is going on tonight at the Shop Huntsville. Again, it starts at 5:30. You can forge your own creation, and you get to take what you create home. Sounds like a super awesome event. If you're into this kind of stuff, you're just not going to want to miss it. And speaking of things you're just not going to want to miss, let's head into the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscast. 48 Savannah Sap this afternoon is checking out a sinkhole in a Boaz neighborhood that's caused a road closure in the community. Another story you're just not going to want to miss, speaking with the sister of a May 20 tornado victim who was left paralyzed. 48's Aria Pons will have that story coming up. And finally, stick around for what Huntsville city leaders are saying about the future of its police department. 48's Callie Neese is on that, and these are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscast. And let's see, it is 3:56. We have enough time for Facebook fun this afternoon. Our 48 Facebook question of the day: what is something you learned in school but never used after graduation? A very, very good question there. And let's see what you all had to say. What is something you haven't used since graduation? Let's see. Chase Cagle said math. I have to agree with you on that, especially when you get into algebra, statistics, geometry, all that stuff. A squared, b squared, negative b, plus or minus the square root, all that stuff. I don't use any of that. I feel you on that. Shorthand, now that's something I never learned. Michael said diagramming sentences. Now that is something I haven't done since middle school. I really don't understand the point of that except for identifying what's a verb, what's an adjective. So I feel you. The gym, Peggy Johnson said. I loved the gym. That was one of my favorite classes, but I can definitely understand where you're coming from. Brian, no talking during class. Now that's something I learned that I think held me back a little bit. I feel that. And then Bobby said to use a manual typewriter. After I graduated, they switched to the electric ones. And nowadays we have computers, we have keyboards. So I feel you on that, Bobby. Great comments today, but that is all the time I have for today's Before the Four. But as always, thank you so much for watching and spending a bit of your Thursday afternoon here. I hope you all have a great night, and as always, thank you so much for watching.